Yeah, I just want to follow up on the Islamophobia question. With this initiative, are you going to be reviewing laws and regulations that are in place across the U.S. government that are targeted at Muslims and you know, not just in the federal level, but also the state and local level? Do you see some scope for those measures to be rescinded? And in what kind of time frame is that even possible?
So, look, we're definitely going to, one thing I can say is we're going to continue to have conversations with community leaders, advocates, and members of Congress and others as we, move forward with the strategy. This is something that this entire administration takes very seriously, and make sure that every American has the freedom to live their lives. Certainly we can get you more specifics on what this is the strategy is going to look like, the breakdowns and the agencies that are going to be involved, and I can't speak to specifics of investigations or penalties of that nature, but this is the beginning of it, and certainly this is something, like I said, the first step of order of business was back in May when we released a strategy on combating anti-Semitism, and this is the next steps, and certainly we will have more to share as the days go by.
And on Maine, if I may, you said that this is, these visits are difficult and painful for the president. Are you planning to, after this latest shooting, is there any action that you're planning in terms of maybe bringing people together again, local officials? We've set the incident, the tragedy in Maine did cause Representative Golden to change his view on an assault weapons ban. Are you seeing any other lawmakers come forward that might have changed their view? And will there be any kind of a summit or gathering?
There's a lot that you're asking in that question there, Andrea, and all very good questions. Look, one of the things that was so important for the office to be created, the Office in Preventing Gun Violence, obviously one of the pillars to that office is making sure that all of the executive orders that the president put forward is accelerated, right? That we move really much faster on getting what the president signed out there to states and obviously to Americans who are suffering and just communities out there who are suffering, but also to make sure that the law that was the bipartisan law also gets moved out very quickly. But one of the things that we've been providing, and these are the things that we'll continue to provide to communities, is as I mentioned, Greg Jackson is on the ground. He's working with FBI and DOJ to coordinate with victim services, deploying experts from the newly created Mass Shooting Victimization Resource Center. That's something that we're doing. We're coordinating with the Department of Education and HUD to support school reopening strategy, because that was obviously really important as the schools had to shut down, and emergency housing as needed throughout the region. So there are a lot of steps that we're doing that is part of this office that's going to help the community on the ground. As it relates to Congress, look, we've been very clear. The president has taken more than 2 dozen executive actions to deal with gun violence. We believe there is more. This cannot be what we're seeing in Maine and other places, cannot be the norm, right? And so we've been very clear that more needs to be done. We've been very clear on that, and we've asked Congress to take legislative action in order to truly deal. If they want to save lives, that's what they need to do. They need to pass an assault weapons ban, enact universal background checks, require safe storage of guns, and immunity from liability for gun manufacturers, and across the country we must strengthen the red flag laws, and that is something that we see the Department of Justice taking action and creating a model red flag legislation so that other states can move forward. So there's a lot of work to be done here, a lot of work, and it started here with the 2 dozen executive action. Obviously there was a bipartisan piece of legislation that's now law that the president signed last year. Now we need more legislation. That's what we need to really truly save lives.
The governor
maybe to the non-Andreas in the room, I'm just asking.
Go ahead.
The governor has started an investigation now into mistakes. Is the federal government able to provide any assistance in that? Are you troubled by the reports that we've heard that so many clues were missed? And there was a call this morning about $334 million going into community policing and things like mental health of police forces and things like that. Is there any funding that you're thinking about making available to help local law enforcement do better in terms of identifying potential shooters?
So the commission to probe that the governor announced, we believe, of course, that the community needs answers. And so this is going to be something, obviously, that we support. And the president has told the governor, since the strategy unfolded, that Maine has its full backing from the entire federal family, and will provide resources. And obviously, the Department of Justice and the FBI is on hand to assist in any way. And don't want to, they're still investigating, as you just mentioned. We're hearing things, but obviously law enforcement is still investigating. Don't want to get ahead of that. But we are here to offer resources, and of course we support the governor's efforts to get to the bottom of what occurred on the ground, this horrific tragedy. Karen, you're going to be the last one.
Thanks, Karine. And back on the mayors, you mentioned the supplemental funding request that you guys have sent up to Congress, but they say that $1.4 billion isn't enough to help them deal with the influx of migrants. They're asking for $5 billion. Would the administration consider boosting that amount, and what was the response from those senior officials in that meeting to the request for $5 billion?
So look, we have been in constant conversation and communication, obviously, with these city mayors and others across the country as they're certainly dealing with the influx of migrants in their city. I'm not going to get into specifics of what came out. What I know was what the agenda, what was wanted to agenda on to discuss, and what we believe was important is that supplemental. We do need that 1.4 billion. That's what we believe is needed. It's emergency, as you know, emergency funding that we put forward in the supplemental, that we believe it's important for our national security. It's important for what we're trying to do with these communities. I can't speak to the $5 billion. I'm not sure what else they're asking on top of the $1.4 billion, so can't speak to that. I can only speak to what we have requested in the supplemental funding to Congress, and that's what we believe is urgent, is needed. And we have said, we've been very clear, if House Republicans are serious in dealing with this border security, this is something that they should move forward with easily. But what we've seen them do over and over again is play political games. And so this is an opportunity for them to show in a real way that they want to deal with the issues that we're seeing at the border. All right, guys, see you next week. Thank you. See you on the road.